Alright, everybody, we're going to be doing something a little bit differently for Next Fest this year. I'm going to be making daily videos recapping some of my favorite games from the night before. This way I get the footage done a lot earlier, and it's more relevant to you folks. So let me know what you think in the comments down below. If you have demos for me to check out for Next Fest, please get in touch. But as I just said, all the games you're going to be seeing for the next few showcases will be the demos that we have played. And we're going to be starting things off with Dome Keeper. This is kind of like tower defense dig dug roguelike, where our task is to mine these various alien worlds to gather resources, which in turn will allow us to survive when enemies invade and try to kill us. And you'll use your dome and various other tech and items in order to defend yourself when these waves approach. And as you play, the waves get more dangerous, and you'll need to do more upgrades. So the general loop is we go down, we gather the resources, we use them to power up, and we just keep going. In the main game, they said there is going to be kind of like an overarching goal that you must survive X amount of waves. We didn't quite see that in this version. But I love the aesthetic of the game, very haunting worlds. And I think I just want to really see more of what the gameplay loop is going to be meant in the main game, but definitely a solid concept and one that I'm hoping we'll be able to get a press key for and check this one out later on. We now go to Thunder Ray. This is a game that is, as you can tell, very inspired by Punch-Out. We are battling aliens in the Intergalactic Boxing League, and we are going to have to beat them up one fight at a time. So this one, again, this is just pure Punch-Out gameplay. You'll be able to attack high-low, you have a super meter that my video is blocking, and your job is to read the various aliens, get their tells, and then beat the you-know-what out of them. Very short demo, but I love the aesthetics of this game. This looks gorgeous to me, and I'm hoping we see a little bit more in terms of additional systems, or if there's any depth or further depth to the boxing mechanics. Still, if you like Punch-Out style games, definitely check this one out. We now turn to Cult of the Lamb. This is a cute game all about running a cult dedicated to bring back a Lovecraftian, could be Cthulhu at some point, we don't know, elder god. So the game is a mix of kind of very light management sim or colony sim kind of gameplay, where you'll build your cult up by collecting followers, building new structures and things that can help them, and of course managing their happiness, their hunger, stuff like that. But then you go into the maps themselves, and this is where the game turns into an action roguelike, where you'll be given a randomized weapon and spell, and you'll have to fight your way through. I believe the rooms are handmade, but where they're set up is going to be random or shuffle each time you play, to collect the resources, more followers, and things you need in order to then supplement the cult management side of things. I really enjoy this one. If you're hoping for like super detailed combat, I don't know the game is really going to go that far. The one thing we did not get out of the demo is how the managing the cult system will impact the roguelike combat, as we only got to build one thing and that was it. But I love the aesthetic of this game, and I'm really looking forward to playing more of it when it is released. So with that said, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll take a look at a few more of my favorites from the first night of Next Fest. And as always, if you're interested in my thoughts on design, then check out my game design books. For entry-level students, we have 20 essential games to study, and then the Game Design Deep Dive series that takes an extensive look at different genres, with free-to-play coming in 2022. We go from a cute style to something a little bit more darker with Signalis. This is a survival horror game where you are trapped on an alien planet, you have no idea what is going on, and of course, everyone is out to get you. So the game itself is played, I don't think this will be considered isometric, but definitely more of a kind of like top-down or kind of like modern retro style. Kind of reminds me of some of the Resident Evil Game Boy games that were released way back in the day. But the general gameplay should be familiar to anyone who's played a survival horror game. You will explore, gather disturbing lore, get weapons, and hopefully avoid any kind of death while solving puzzles and moving around. One thing that I really like about this game is the style. Throughout your exploration, the game will shift into first-person mode when you have to search for various areas or items in an environment. And the cutscenes give it a very unique touch that we really haven't seen, I think, too many indie devs really try their hand at least not in the last few ones that we've played. Combat is going to be very basic, or it's going to be very familiar to you. Your weapons have ammo. You do get a kind of secondary melee that has limited charges to it. But I really enjoy this game. The mood is very well done. I don't know how hard it's going to be in the finished version, but if you are a survival horror fan, this is definitely one to check out. Going from creepy to just, I guess, slightly kooky, we have Eyes in the Dark. This is described as an action roguelite, L-I-G-H-T, where you play as this little girl here who arrives at her grandfather's mansion to find that it's completely covered in darkness. Armed with a flashlight, she is going to have to save the day one light bulb at a time. And it feels like the story is like a cuter or child version of Alan Wake in a sense. But this is a action roguelike in the sense that each one of the manors or holes in the house are going to be procedurally generated out of fixed rooms. You'll find various slots, or you'll find augments you can use to slot into your flashlight, as well as passives. You use sparks, which are found and gotten from killing enemies, in order to power this up. Your goal in each area is to make it through, fight the mini-boss, move on to the next part of the run, and then there will be some elements of persistence, which unfortunately we did not get a chance to see in this demo. All in all, I like the aesthetic of this game. It has kind of like an Addams Family kind of vibe to it, but I don't think this game is really aimed at the hardcore audience. If you're someone who's played The Binding of Isaac, Spelunky, Curse of the Dead Gods, those kinds of games, or especially Hades, this one is not going to do it for you. You do get like a basic dash that grants iframes, but your flashlight is such a limited range, even though you get like a kind of consumable slingshot, it's a little hard to avoid damage. But the game seems to be very plentiful in terms of health, at least at the start. I would say this is a good one for someone who's a first timer, or maybe not like the most versed in terms of action roguelike gameplay. For our final game of the episode, this is Mcpixel 3. And yes, there was not a Mcpixel 2. So our story is that you play as Mcpixel, the greatest hero of them all, who must save the day in the most wacky and completely out of this realm of possibility way. If you missed the first game, this is kind of like a WarioWare kind of style adventure game. You're put into a scenario, you have a limited amount of time to figure out what you need to do. If you fail, you move on to the next one, and you'll repeat until you solve each one in the area, and then you kind of go on to like the big finale, and then you move on to the next chapter of the game. If you're hoping for a super serious, realistic adventure game, this is not going to be the one for you. But this is a game that, again, you'll know very quickly if it is going to be one that you enjoy. And I enjoyed the first one, and this one seems even wackier, as there are now kind of mini games that you can do inside of each one of the micro games. So it's a mini micro game, I guess you could say. But yeah, if you do enjoy this kind of wacky adventure game, definitely check out Mcpixel 3, and especially check out the first game as well if you missed that. But if you're hoping for kind of a more, I guess, involved adventure game, again, something that is a bit more deeper in terms of its puzzle and storytelling, Mcpixel 3 is not going to be for you. But if you enjoy rocking out on a guitar, which will somehow lead to you saving the galaxy, then definitely check it out. But With that said, we're going to wrap up the showcase. We got plenty more indie games to cover for Next Fest this week. Do all the liking, subscribing, and commenting. Check out those games and come back for daily discussions on game design here and on game wisdom, where we send the art and science of games. Until next time, take care.